He lost the Luna he married for peace, and she chose his brother instead. Lost the power he thought it gave him. And when fate finally answered with his true mate, she took one look at him and said, "No." The mountain was quieter than it had been in years, not peaceful, just emptied. Draven stood alone on the western rampart of Blackridge, hands braced on the cold stone, eyes tracking the valley below. Snow dusted the pines in thin, uneven patches. Winter had come late this year, hesitant, as if even the land wasn't sure who ruled it anymore. Behind him, the fortress moved as it always had. Boots on stone, low voices, the steady rhythm of a pack that still functioned. But something was missing. He felt it in the way wolves lowered their heads instead of meeting his gaze, in the way council meetings ended faster than they used to, in the way his chambers echoed at night. Draven Blackridge was still alpha, he just wasn't a whole one. The treaty parchment lay rolled on the table behind him, its seal already cracked. The alliance marriage had been voided cleanly, officially, without bloodshed. No bond had ever formed. The elders had confirmed it. The magic itself had refused. Arya had never been his mate. That truth sat like a stone in his chest, not because he loved her, but because it marked the first time something important had slipped from his grasp without his permission. She had been a solution, a political answer, a necessary sacrifice for peace. And now she was gone, bonded to his brother, ruling beside him, everything Draven had once intended to secure through law instead of fate. Lucian had always been better at standing quietly in the right place. Draven's jaw tightened. A wolf crossed the courtyard below and glanced up. Their eyes met for half a second before the younger male looked away, posture stiffening. Respect was still there, fear too. But belief? Belief was thinner than it used to be. Draven exhaled slowly, breath fogging in the cold air. They think I'm unfinished, he thought. The door behind him creaked open. "Alpha," one of the sentries said carefully. "The council is assembling. They asked if you'd join them." Asked, not summoned, not demanded. Asked. "I'll come when I'm ready," Draven said without turning. "Yes, Alpha." The door closed again. Silence rushed back in. Draven flexed his hands against the stone. His wolf paced under his skin, restless, agitated. Not with rage, but with something more dangerous. Expectation. For days now, it had been there. A low, insistent pressure in his chest. A pull that didn't belong to hunger or anger or the urge to dominate. He knew those sensations well. This was different. This was calling. "You're late," Draven muttered to the empty air. "If fate has something to say to me, it's taken its time." As if in answer, the pressure sharpened. Not pain, awareness. His spine straightened slowly. The valley below hadn't changed. No banners moved, no alarms rang. And yet, something in him knew, with the same certainty he used to feel on the edge of battle, that a line had been crossed. Somewhere beyond the mountain. Somewhere closer than he expected. His wolf stilled, not recoiling, not snarling, listening. Draven closed his eyes for a brief moment, breath steadying. Memories surfaced uninvited. The council chamber when the bond between Arya and Lucian had ignited. The way the air itself had bent. The way power had answered them instead of him. He had told himself it wouldn't matter. That alliances mattered more than magic. That strength was built, not gifted. But this pull didn't care what he believed. His eyes opened. "Fine," he said quietly. "Show yourself." The pressure surged. Draven sucked in a sharp breath, hand going to his chest as the sensation hit fully this time. Hot, sudden, undeniable. Mate. The words slammed into him with brutal clarity. Not memory, not regret, not politics. This was the real thing. His wolf surged forward, fierce and demanding, instincts roaring to the surface. Claim, find, take, secure. Draven clenched his teeth and forced it back. "No," he growled under his breath. Not like that. If fate thought it could hand him a mate now, after everything, it was wrong. Draven turned from the rampart and headed down the stairs, cloak snapping behind him as he crossed the courtyard. Wolves parted instinctively, sensing the shift in him, the way his presence had sharpened. By the time he reached the outer gate, the pull had direction. North. Toward the lower settlements. Toward the trade road that cut through Black Ridge territory and into lands that answered to no alpha at all. Draven slowed. If this bond was real, truly real, then whoever stood on the other end of it would feel it too. And if she was anything like the woman fate had chosen for him, she wouldn't come running. He stopped just inside the gate, staring out at the road disappearing into the trees. The name surfaced with the pull, not spoken, not heard, but known. Rose. The bond tightened in response. His wolf snarled in satisfaction. Draven's mouth curved into a grim, humorless smile. So, he murmured, eyes dark. You exist. He straightened, shoulders squaring. Let's see what you do with it. Rose had learned to recognize danger without seeing it. It wasn't a sound, or a scent, or the prickle of being watched. It was the way the world shifted, just a fraction, like the moment before a storm broke. She felt it as she tightened the straps on the supply crates, fingers moving automatically as the caravan prepared to leave the lower settlement. Snow clung to the edges of the road, half melted and gray from travel. The air smelled like iron and pine sap, and too many unfamiliar wolves passing through the same place, neutral ground. That was what the trade road was supposed to be. In practice, it meant no one was safe, only tolerated. Rose, one of the merchants called, tossing her a ledger. You riding point or rear today? She caught it easily. Rear. I'll keep an eye on the stragglers. He nodded, relieved. People usually were when she volunteered for that role. Rose didn't look like much to them. No banners, no pack markings, no alpha scent rolling off her in heavy waves. Just a woman in travel-worn leathers, dark hair braided tight against the wind, eyes that missed very little. But she knew how to move through places where no one quite wanted you. The caravan lurched into motion. Wheels creaked. Horses snorted. Wolves shifted into jogs alongside the wagons. Escorts paid just enough to discourage trouble. Rose walked. She preferred it that way. The road bent north, climbing gradually as it threaded toward Black Ridge territory. She had no intention of crossing the mountain, just skirting its edge before turning east again. A clean route, a profitable one. She had done this run dozens of times, which was why the sudden pressure in her chest stopped her cold. Rose sucked in a sharp breath and nearly stumbled. Her hand went to her sternum, fingers curling into the leather there as something pulled, not forward, not back, but toward. Her wolf surged awake in an instant, hackles lifting, instincts flaring so fast it stole her breath. There. The word wasn't spoken. It didn't need to be. Rose straightened slowly, eyes scanning the road ahead. Nothing looked different. The caravan continued on, unaware. Snow fell in lazy spirals. Pine branches creaked in the wind. And yet, her wolf wasn't panicking. It wasn't afraid. It was alert, focused, braced. Rose exhaled through her nose, forcing calm where instinct wanted motion. No, she murmured under her breath. Not here. The pull tightened. Not painful, not violent, certain. Her jaw clenched. She had felt echoes of bonds before, brush-past sensations when packs crossed paths, sparks that fizzled out just as quickly as they flared. This was not that. This was deep, anchored, unavoidable. Mate. The realization landed with a weight that made her shoulders stiffen. Absolutely not. Rose took a step back from the road, putting space between herself and the direction the pull wanted her to go. Her wolf resisted, muscles coiling, but Rose held firm. We don't do this, she told it quietly, not blindly, not because magic snaps its fingers. Her wolf growled low, unhappy but listening. The caravan slowed ahead as the terrain steepened. One of the escort wolves glanced back at her, brow furrowing. "You all right?" he called. "Fine," Rose answered evenly. "Keep moving." He hesitated, then obeyed. Rose waited until the wagons crested the rise and disappeared around the bend before turning fully toward the mountain. Blackridge loomed above the tree line, its slopes dark and imposing even under fresh snow. She could feel the pull now with frightening clarity, not vague, not distant. Close, very close. Her wolf pressed hard against her ribs, urging her forward. Rose's lips thinned. "So that's how it is," she murmured. "You don't even ask." The pull answered by flaring brighter, warmer. An undeniable sense of recognition reaching back along the invisible thread. She felt him then. Not his face, not his name, not even his presence exactly. Just weight, authority, control. A will that had never been denied anything important in its life. Rose huffed a quiet, humorless breath. "Oh," she said softly, "that explains it." She turned back toward the road. Her wolf snarled, protesting. "No," Rose repeated, firmer this time. "I'm not walking into a mountain stronghold because fate decided to entertain itself." She resumed her pace, deliberately putting one foot in front of the other as the pull strained between them, stretching like a taut cord. It did not break. By the time the caravan reached the next rest point, the air had changed. Wolves lined the road ahead, Blackridge scouts, their posture unmistakable even before Rose caught their scent. They stood with practiced stillness, weapons visible but not raised. A checkpoint. The lead merchant cursed under his breath. "We paid for clear passage." "Blackridge doesn't always care," one of the escorts muttered. Rose felt it then, the pull snapping tight enough that her breath hitched. He was there, somewhere behind the line of wolves. The scouts parted. Draven stepped forward. Rose didn't need anyone to tell her who he was. He filled the space without trying, dark cloak snapping in the wind, presence rolling outward like pressure against her skin. His eyes were sharp, assessing, already weighing the situation the way a general assessed terrain. Alpha. Not just any alpha. Her wolf surged again, fierce and unyielding, recognition blazing so hot it made Rose's vision blur for half a second. She steadied herself. Draven's gaze locked onto her. Not the caravan, not the merchants. Her. The world narrowed. Rose held his stare, chin lifting a fraction, not in challenge, not in submission, in acknowledgement. She felt it in the way his breath changed, the way his shoulders squared, the way his wolf answered hers, powerful and immediate. The bond hummed between them, bright and undeniable. Draven took a step forward. Rose took one back. The movement rippled through the gathered wolves. Murmurs broke out, confusion and curiosity tangling in the air. Draven stopped. Good, Rose thought. At least he listens to that. "State your business," he said, voice deep, controlled. The words were for the caravan. His eyes never left her. "Trade," the merchant answered quickly. "Passing through neutral road." Draven nodded once, dismissive. His attention remained fixed. Rose felt the moment approaching, the one where expectations settled like a hand on her shoulder, where everyone waited for her to react the way a mate was supposed to. She didn't. Rose stepped forward instead, closing the distance just enough that only Draven could hear her. The pull flared, almost dizzying. She met his eyes calmly. "Yes," she said quietly. "I feel it too." His jaw tightened. "And?" he asked. Rose didn't raise her voice. She didn't bristle. She didn't bare her throat or soften her stance. She simply told the truth. "The bond may exist," she said. "Your claim does not." The silence that followed was absolute. Draven stared at her, something dark and volatile flickering behind his eyes. Rose held her ground. "I'm not your Luna," she continued evenly. "I'm not your consolation prize, and I'm not stepping into a fortress built on fear because fate decided to tie a thread between us." A murmur rippled through the wolves. Draven's voice dropped. You don't know what you're refusing. Rose's mouth curved slightly. Not unkind, not afraid. I know exactly what I'm refusing, she said. And I know what I'm willing to walk away from. She stepped back again, deliberately breaking the closeness. The bond, strained, did not break. Let the caravan pass, Rose said, eyes never leaving his. Or prove everything I've already heard about you. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Draven lifted a hand. Let them through, he ordered. The wolves obeyed instantly, parting to clear the road. Rose didn't thank him. She turned and walked back toward the caravan, heart pounding, wolf restless but oddly satisfied. Behind her, Draven watched. She could feel it. The pull followed her as she left, taut and unyielding. Rose climbed into the wagon at the rear and faced forward, refusing to look back. Fate, she murmured under her breath as the wheels creaked into motion. You're going to have to do better than that. The bond answered with steady, patient heat, as if it agreed. The caravan disappeared down the road, wheels creaking softly until even that sound faded into the trees. Draven did not move. Snow settled against his cloak. Wolves shifted behind him, uncertain, waiting for a command that didn't come. The bond still burned, not frantic, not wild, but steady and unmistakable. A presence stretched taut between him and the woman walking away, as if she hadn't just unraveled something ancient and unquestionable. Rose. The name surfaced again, unbidden, quieter now. Anchored. Draven flexed his jaw. He had been challenged before. Fought. Defied. Wolves had tested him in blood and bone since the day he'd taken the mantle of Alpha. He knew how to answer that kind of resistance. This was different. She hadn't challenged him. She had refused him, calmly, clearly, without fear. That unsettled him more than any snarl or drawn blade ever had. Alpha? Draven turned at the sound of the voice. One of his captains stood a few paces back, posture tight, eyes flicking between Draven and the empty road. They felt it, the captain said carefully. The bond. Draven knew. He could smell it in the air, the sharp electric tang of recognition still clinging to the wolves who'd been close enough to witness it. They were murmuring now, low and restless, confusion threading through their scents. Yes, Draven said, they did. And you let her go. It wasn't accusation. It was disbelief. Draven's gaze hardened. I chose not to make a spectacle of it. The captain swallowed. Some will say that looks like weakness. Draven stepped closer, his presence pressing down like a physical weight. The murmurs died instantly. Some, he said quietly, have a very narrow understanding of strength. The captain bowed his head and backed away. Draven turned back toward the mountain, boots crunching in the snow as he crossed the road and headed for the fortress. The wolves fell in behind him automatically, forming ranks without being told. But the cohesion felt thinner than it had before. Inside the stronghold, the air was tight with anticipation. Word traveled fast in Blackridge. Faster than runners. Faster than messengers. By the time Draven reached the war room, the council was already assembled. They rose when he entered. Not all of them met his eyes. Draven took his place at the head of the table, resting both hands against the scarred wood. The familiar map lay beneath his palms. Borders, patrol lines, territories that had cost blood to hold. All right, he said. Say it. The elders exchanged glances. One of them cleared his throat. The bond exists, Draven cut in. You don't need to convince me of that. And yet, another elder said carefully, the woman refused your claim. She did, Draven agreed. A ripple of discomfort moved through the room. That has never happened, the elder pressed. Not in living memory. A mate bond answers dominance. It answers authority. Draven's eyes lifted slowly. No, he said. It answers choice. The room went very still. "You're certain," a third voice asked, "that this was a true bond, not a misfire, not—" Draven slammed his palm against the table. The sound cracked through the chamber like thunder. "I am not in the habit of confusing fate with inconvenience," he said coldly. This was real, and she knew it. Silence fell again, heavier this time. An elder shifted. "Then we must consider the implications. A mated alpha without a mate at his side." "I am not unmated," Draven snapped. "I am unclaimed." The distinction hung sharp in the air. Another elder leaned forward. "Alpha, with respect. If she will not stand beside you willingly, the bond becomes a liability. Others will see opportunity, rival packs, internal dissent." Draven straightened slowly. "Anyone who sees opportunity," he said, "is welcome to test it." That earned a few flinches, but beneath the bluster, something else stirred, an awareness Draven could not ignore. Rose hadn't refused him to undermine him. She had refused him because she meant it. She hadn't postured, hadn't threatened, hadn't demanded concessions. She had simply drawn a line. Draven dismissed the council shortly after. There was nothing more to be said yet, no decision to announce, no command to issue. He needed space. The training yard was nearly empty when he stepped into it, the afternoon light slanting low across packed snow. A few warriors paused mid-drill when they sensed him, then quickly returned to their work. Draven crossed to the far edge of the yard and stopped. The bond tugged again, not urgently, patiently, as if it knew time would not sever it. "Annoying thing," he muttered. His wolf stirred beneath his skin, not snarling, not demanding, watching, evaluating. Draven closed his eyes, images surfaced, Rose standing her ground, Rose stepping back instead of bowing, Rose walking away without looking over her shoulder. She hadn't smelled afraid, she hadn't smelled tempted, she had smelled resolved. That was new. A lesser alpha would have forced the issue, dragged her back, claimed her publicly, and dared fate to protest. Draven clenched his fists and lost her forever. The realization settled heavy in his chest. If he wanted this bond, truly wanted it, then he could not take it the way he took territory. That path would only prove her right. A sharp laugh escaped him, short and humorless. "So," he murmured to the empty yard, "that's the game then. Patience, restraint, proof, none of which came naturally to him. His wolf shifted, uneasy but attentive. "Don't look at me like that," Draven muttered. "You felt it too." The bond pulsed once in answer, steady as a heartbeat. Draven lifted his gaze toward the road again, toward the direction Rose had gone. "You walked away from an alpha," he said quietly. "Most wolves wouldn't dare." His mouth curved, just barely. "Let's see what it takes to make you come back." The trouble started at dusk. Rose felt it first. Not the bond, but the shift in the air that meant something had gone wrong. The caravan had barely cleared the foothills when one of the escorts slowed, nostrils flaring as he scented the wind. "We're not alone," he muttered. Rose didn't answer. She was already moving. The road narrowed as it dipped between two ridges, pine pressing in close on either side. Snow muffled sound, swallowing the crunch of boots and hooves alike. It was the kind of place where ambushes happened fast and ended bloody. Her wolf stirred, alert but not panicked. Then she felt him again. Not pulling this time, not demanding, watching. Rose exhaled slowly. "Figures," she murmured. The first arrow came from the tree line, not aimed at her, but at the lead escort. It struck the wolf's shoulder, spinning him hard enough to send him into the snow with a shout. Chaos erupted. Shifters lunged for cover. Horses reared. Another arrow buried itself in a wagon wheel, splintering wood. "Down!" someone yelled. Rose drew her blade and moved without hesitation, angling toward the injured escort. She got 2 steps before the air shifted. Draven hit the road like a force of nature. He came out of the trees with half a dozen Black Ridge warriors at his back, cloak already gone, sword flashing as he cut down the nearest attacker before the man even realized he'd been seen. The ambushers scattered. Draven didn't let them. He moved with brutal efficiency, driving them back toward the rocks, wolves snapping at heels, steel ringing against steel. It was over quickly, too quickly for a group that had expected easy prey. Rose watched him fight with a professional eye. No wasted motion, no cruelty for its own sake. Every strike ended the threat cleanly. When it was done, bodies lay still in the snow, and the surviving attackers fled into the trees. Draven turned. His gaze found Rose instantly. She felt the bond flare, sharp, immediate, and didn't fight it. He crossed the distance between them in long strides and stopped just short of touching her. "Are you hurt?" he asked. The question was clipped, controlled. Concern held tight under discipline. Rose shook her head. No. His eyes scanned her anyway, hands, shoulders, throat, cataloging. Only when he was satisfied did he breathe out, slow and deliberate. "Your escort?" he asked. She glanced back. "Alive. Arrow went through muscle. He'll heal." Draven nodded once. Then, to her surprise, he turned and barked orders to his wolves. "Secure the perimeter. No one leaves this stretch of road unguarded tonight. Anyone injured gets priority." No one questioned him. Rose studied him quietly as he worked. The way he positioned wolves to block the road without trapping the caravan, the way he spoke without raising his voice, the way his presence alone steadied the panic. When he finally turned back to her, the air between them felt different, charged, close. "You didn't call for help," Rose said. Draven's mouth twitched. "You didn't have time. And yet you were here." "I was already close," he said. "After you left, I followed the road long enough to know you wouldn't make it out before dark." Rose lifted a brow. "So this was protection?" "Yes." "Without claiming me?" "Yes." The word landed solidly between them. Draven stepped closer, not crowding, just near enough that she could feel his heat, his scent threading with hers in the cold air. Pine, iron, smoke, grounded, familiar already. "You could have made a show of it," she said quietly. "Dragged me back, declared me under your authority." "I could have," he agreed. "But you didn't." "No." She looked up at him then, really looked. "Why?" she asked. Draven held her gaze. "Because you were right." The admission surprised them both. "You said I didn't have a claim," he continued. "You were right, not yet." Her wolf shifted, attentive. "I won't cage you to prove something to my pack," Draven said. "If you stand beside me, it will be because you chose to, not because I cornered you on a road and called it fate." Rose studied his face for signs of manipulation. Found none. Instead, she found restraint, hard-won and imperfect, but real. "Thank you," she said after a moment. The words were simple. They mattered anyway. A gust of wind kicked snow into the air, and Rose shivered despite herself. The adrenaline was wearing off fast, leaving cold in its wake. Draven noticed immediately. Without a word, he shrugged out of his cloak and draped it over her shoulders. She stiffened for half a second, not in rejection, just surprise. His hands lingered only long enough to settle the weight properly. Wool and fur enveloped her, heavy with his scent, warmth seeping in fast. "Temporary," he said, as if reading her thoughts. "You'll give it back." Rose huffed a quiet breath. "I wasn't planning to steal it." His gaze flicked to her mouth, then back to her eyes. "Good," he said. They stood like that for a moment, close, not touching, bond humming softly between them instead of straining. Rose adjusted the cloak herself, fingers brushing his wrist in the process. The contact was brief. It still sent heat skimming up her arm. Draven didn't pull away, didn't grab her either, just let it be what it was. The injured escort groaned nearby, breaking the moment. Rose stepped back reluctantly. "I need to get them moving," This road isn't safe anymore. It is now, Draven said. My wolves will escort you to the next settlement. Rose hesitated. That puts you out. He shrugged. It puts you alive. She met his gaze again, something softer threading through the tension now. You didn't have to do this, she said. I know, Draven replied. That's why it matters. Rose handed the cloak back to him slowly, fingers trailing a fraction longer than necessary. For the record, she said, voice low, this doesn't mean I'm ready. Draven inclined his head. I didn't expect it to. But, she added, it does mean I see you trying. His expression shifted, not triumphant, not smug, focused. Good, he said, because I'm not done. The bond pulsed between them, steady and warm, not claimed, not denied, waiting. The cost came sooner than Draven expected. The message reached him at dawn, delivered by a runner whose scent carried urgency even before the words were spoken. Eastern Watch reports movement, the wolf said. Not a full pack, too coordinated for rogues. Draven took the parchment and scanned it once. Mercenaries. Paid blades, likely hired by one of the border factions that had been testing Blackridge ever since the treaty shifted power. Wolves who didn't care about bonds or politics, only leverage. And Rose was leverage. She left at first light, the runner added. Your escort brought her as far as the river crossing. She refused further protection. Of course she did. Draven dismissed the runner with a sharp nod and turned toward the map table, fingers tracing the route instinctively. The mercenaries would expect him to respond the same way he always had, hard, fast, overwhelming. They would expect blood. What they wouldn't expect was hesitation. Draven straightened slowly. Send word to the council, he said. They're to convene within the hour. The wolf blinked. Alpha? I'm invoking ancient road law, Draven said. Neutral passage, no claims, no forced protection. The runner hesitated. That law hasn't been used in... I know exactly how long it's been, Draven snapped. That's why it will matter. When the council assembled, the room was already tense. News of the mercenaries had spread quickly. So had the whispers. She's bait, one elder said bluntly. They want to see if you'll overreach. They want to see if you'll claim her, another added. If you do, they paint you as tyrant again. If you don't, they test your weakness. Draven rested his hands on the table. I will not claim her, he said evenly. A murmur rippled. Then let us send wolves, an elder pressed. Under your banner. No banners, Draven said. No symbols, no alpha scent. Silence followed. You'd strip yourself of authority, the elder said slowly. On a road that dangerous. Yes, and if she's harmed? Draven's jaw tightened. Then that blood will be on me, he said. But if I mark her against her will, I become exactly what she refused, and I lose her anyway. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. This weakens your position, one said. Draven met his gaze unflinchingly. Then let it. He left the council without waiting for agreement. Rose felt him before she saw him. The bond didn't flare this time. It settled, warm and steady, like a presence choosing to sit rather than pull. She stood near the river crossing, watching the current churn dark beneath the ice. The caravan had halted there, merchants arguing quietly about whether to press on or wait. Draven approached on foot, alone. No guards, no banners, no weapons visible. Rose turned as he stopped a few paces away. You shouldn't be here by yourself, she said. I know, he replied. That was it. No justification, no deflection. She studied him, eyes narrowing slightly. What's wrong? Mercenaries, he said. They're watching this road. Rose exhaled. Figures. They expected me to surround you, Draven continued. Mark you, declare you under my protection. And you didn't, she said quietly. No. Why tell me now? Because I'm stepping back, he said. Fully. I've invoked neutral road law. My wolves won't intervene unless asked. I won't scent mark you. I won't stand between you and the world unless you invite it. Rose stared at him. That's dangerous, she said. Yes. For you. Yes. For me too, she added. I know. The bond hummed, deeper now, less volatile. You could lose influence doing this, Rose said. Your council won't like it. They already don't, Draven replied. This simply makes it official. She was quiet for a long moment, the sound of rushing water filling the space between them. You're choosing uncertainty, she said finally. I'm choosing you having a choice, he answered. There's a difference. Rose stepped closer, not all the way, but enough that she could smell him clearly now. The familiar pine and smoke scent grounded her, steadier than before. You don't give up easily, she said. I give up nothing I don't mean to, Draven said. I mean. Her fingers brushed his forearm, testing, light as a question. He didn't move, didn't claim the touch, just stayed. That matters, Rose said softly. The river cracked and shifted behind them, ice grinding against ice. Stay nearby, she added after a beat. Not as alpha, not as protector. As what? He asked. Rose met his eyes. As yourself. Something in Draven's chest loosened. Not victory, not relief, but something quieter and more dangerous. Hope. He inclined his head. As myself, then. She stepped back, but not away this time. Good, she said, because if you'd tried to force this, I know, he said, I would have lost. The bond warmed, steady and patient, waiting. Night settled fully over the river. The fire burned low, steady rather than bright. The caravan slept around it, breath fogging the cold air, the road finally still. Draven stood where he had since dusk, close enough to be seen, far enough not to intrude. He didn't pace, didn't watch the shadows with the hunger of a man expecting trouble. He waited. Rose noticed. She rose quietly and crossed the space between them without hesitation this time. No pause, no weighing. Draven sensed her approach and turned as she stopped in front of him. Up close, the bond didn't pull. It fit. Rose lifted a hand and rested it against his chest, fingers splayed where his heart beat slow and steady beneath her palm. Draven inhaled, the sound rough, and still did not move. You stayed, she said. Yes. You didn't follow. No. That was enough. Her hand curled lightly in his tunic, not claiming, not testing, simply there. The bond warmed in response, spreading outward like heat through stone. Rose stepped closer. Draven's hands came up only when she leaned into him, settling at her waist with deliberate care, grounding rather than enclosing. His scent wrapped around her, familiar now, not overwhelming. She breathed him in. This, she said quietly, resting her forehead against his, feels right. The words landed heavier than any vow. Draven closed his eyes for a brief moment, as if steadying himself against the weight of it. Rose, he murmured. She kissed him then, unhurried, certain. And the bond answered fully at last, not in a rush, not in fire. It sealed like something long set into place. Warmth threaded through her chest, anchoring instead of pulling, her wolf settling with a deep, contented stillness she had never known before. Draven felt it too, the absence of strain, the quiet alignment. He rested his forehead against hers, breath mingling, letting the moment settle without trying to shape it into anything more. When they parted, Rose stayed close, her hand still against his chest. Tomorrow, she said softly, we figure out what this looks like. A corner of his mouth curved. Together. She nodded once. The fire cracked behind them. The river moved on, dark and patient beneath the ice. Rose didn't step away, and Draven didn't need to ask her to stay. They returned to Black Ridge at dawn, The ride back was quiet, the kind of silence that came after a decision had already been made. Draven rode ahead, setting the pace without asking. Rose followed easily at his side, neither leading nor lagging, her presence fitting into the space beside him as if it had always belonged there. When the stronghold rose from the mountain rock, gates opening at their approach, no announcement was made. None was needed. Wolves watched from the walls as they entered together. The visiting Alpha arrived before midday. He came with a small escort, colors from the eastern ranges stitched into his cloak, posture easy but eyes sharp. Wolves made space for him in the courtyard, curiosity rippling through the pack. Rose stood beside Draven when the Alpha dismounted. She felt the look the moment it landed, not crude, not overt, assessing. Draven felt it too. His hand came to her waist without hesitation, firm, possessive, settling her exactly where he wanted her, not pulling her back, not hiding her, claiming the ground she stood on. Rose's breath caught, then she smiled. Some instincts, she thought, didn't need correcting. The visiting Alpha's gaze flicked to Draven's hand and stayed there a fraction too long. Then his mouth curved. "So," he said lightly, "the rumors were true." Draven didn't move his hand. His thumb pressed once, slow and deliberate. "They were incomplete," he replied. Rose leaned into him without looking away from the visitor. The Alpha inclined his head, recalibrating. "You chose well," he said. To Rose, not Draven. Draven's grip tightened just enough to be unmistakable. "She did," he said. The tension eased after that. Words were exchanged, routes discussed, old grievances politely sidestepped, but the message had already been delivered. Rose belonged there. Not because the bond demanded it, because she stayed. When the visitor finally departed, the courtyard resumed its rhythm. Wolves returned to training. The moment passed, but it left something settled behind it. Rose turned slightly, looking up at Draven. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he said. "You didn't even look at him." "I didn't need to." She laughed quietly, shaking her head. "You're impossible." His mouth curved. "You didn't seem to mind." She didn't deny it. They walked the length of the courtyard together, his hand never leaving her waist. Wolves stepped aside without instruction. At the fortress doors, Rose stopped. "This is where I would have left," she said. Draven studied her face. "And?" "And I'm not," she said simply. "I'm staying. With you." He searched her, once, thoroughly, then nodded. "Good," he said. "I was already clearing space." His hand slid from her waist to lace their fingers together. Slower now, intentional. Rose squeezed once. Around them, the pack watched. Not for permission, not for ceremony, just for confirmation. Their Alpha hadn't changed. He'd been chosen, and Rose, standing easily within his reach, had chosen him right back.